Recently, a man in Germany cut his house in half. Apparently, he was in the throes of a bitter divorce, and he wanted to split the assets, so to speak, so he took a chainsaw to his summer home and literally cut the home in half, loaded his half on a forklift, took it to his brother's house, and set up half housekeeping at his brother's house. You know, arguments are a regular feature of most marriages, and sometimes those arguments escalate out of control. Now let me just say that I think some arguing shows that there's an investment in the relationship. I get concerned when there's no conflict at all in a marriage, because oftentimes that just means that people are avoiding the conflict rather than solving it. However, even more often, people do argue and the argument escalates out of control and things are said that they wish they could have taken back, things that sometimes cause permanent damage to the relationship. Research shows that couples who have healthier relationships don't necessarily never argue, but they know how to back out of a conflict better than couples that are likely to become verbally or physically abusive. So in order to demonstrate how to back out of a conflict or how to help take the charge out of an argument, I've asked my husband to demonstrate a technique called the floor. This is a piece of carpeting, and in this technique the individual that has the floor does most of the talking, and the other individual just sort of listens and reflects back to the individual that has the floor what that individual is saying. Now the big question is, who gets to go first? Should we flip the floor? Heads or tails? You gotta call it. Heads or tails? Come on, Mike. Heads. Okay, you lose. I get to go first. I have the floor. So I have the floor. I begin to tell him how I feel about whatever the issue is, and all he can do is say back to me what I'm saying, putting it in his own words, and then ask questions for clarity purposes, but he can't restate his agenda. He has to listen to how I feel. You know, Michael, the attic. I mean, I was up there today, and it really bothers me how much mess there is up there. It just seems like everybody just throws stuff up there because they don't want to have to deal with it, and it ends up becoming just a junkyard.
So what I hear you saying is that there's a junkyard upstairs and it bothers you.
That's right. It really bothers me. It gives me a sense of unease because, you know, I'm trying not to be a neat freak. I'm trying not to be neurotic, but I am a little neater than some of the other people in this household. And, you know, I just like things neat, and it just bothers me when there's junk piling up. And I wish you would organize your stuff.
So what I hear you saying is that my stuff is the problem. Out of all the stuff that's up there.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that your stuff and other people's stuff is the problem because they just throw it up there and they don't organize it.
How do you propose it should be organized?
Well, I think that we could put some hooks up where we could hang things and some shelving up there so that things are lifted off the floor and we can kind of create some kind of order to it. Does that sound like something you'd be willing to do?
Sounds like something to do after one is retired.
Okay, well, could we do it, work a little bit towards that before you retire? Like maybe on Sundays?
What time on Sundays?
After football. Okay.
That sounds reasonable.
Alright, now did you see how that conversation went? It did not escalate into a full-blown argument. Now let's just demonstrate for the sake of contrast how it goes when we don't use the floor exercise. Oh, by the way, what I would do at that point, once I expressed my feelings, is I would give the floor to him and he would be able to explain how he felt. Well, you want to talk about how you feel?
I think that my stuff is fairly well organized according to my standards.
Okay. So the way you feel is that your stuff is organized and that I have maybe an unrealistic ideal of how organized things should be?
I wouldn't say unrealistic, I just would say different than mine.
Okay, so we have two different standards of cleanliness. So
I wouldn't classify it as cleanliness versus uncleanliness. I would just classify it as one way of assorting your stuff.
Okay.
Versus another way of having your stuff on shelves.
So it's not a cleanliness issue, it's a stuff management issue, is that right?
It is a way of having your stuff in such a way that when you go up there, you can recognize what something is rather than digging in boxes.
I know, because you're a visual person and you like to see everything, right?
Exactly. If you're going up there to do a job on the house, you don't want to waste time wondering if you have the item and go down to the hardware store and buying it. When you have it, if you had it in the open, just grab it and go downstairs, do the job.
So you feel like you can access things better when it's just like kind of put up there and everything is kind of laid out.
That's right.
Okay, can I have the floor back? I think that if you put it on shelves and put it on hooks on the wall, it would be organized and you would be able to see it. So do you think we could kind of strike a medium?
You'd have to help me with that because I don't have an idea how that would look. But
I'd be
if
happy to. All right.
If you want hooks, we can make hooks.
Okay. Do you see how much fun we're having with this? It's not escalating into a nasty argument. Now, let's just demonstrate for the sake of, illustration, what it would go like if we were not using the floor technique. You know, Michael, I just really can't stand how I was up in the attic today and it's so disorganized up there, and I think everybody in this house just puts their junk up there, and just because they don't want to deal with it, it just piles up, and then I know I'm going to be the one that's going to have to deal with it.
Sounds like a personal problem.
Oh, it is a personal problem, partly, but I think you have a personal problem too.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
What kind of problem is that?
I think you're disorganized.
Disorganized?
Yes.
As opposed to...
Organized.
Whose organization?
Whose organization? Just normal standards of organization. I'm not unrealistic in my standards of organization.
Are you the norm in organizational
No,
qualities?
I think that I'm adhering to just a universal, transcendent standard of organization. For addicts,
For addicts?
Yes.
What kind of addicts?
No, like addicts upstairs.
I think you're having a woman's standard of order for addicts, where there's no tools
But
involved.
I have to live in this house, Michael. So, I go up there and I've got to find my stuff, and I know I'm going to be the one that's going to have to deal with it when we move, and
No,
we're sharing this house.
My stuff is in one spot.
I know, but we're sharing this house, Mike, so we have to bend to meet each other's needs. You're not getting nasty enough. He's much more difficult to deal with in real life. But anyway, you understand what's happening here is he pushes his agenda, I push my agenda, and because he's not hearing what I'm saying, I think I have to turn up the volume and get more forceful with my agenda. Then he gets insulted and he sees that I'm not listening to him, so he forces his agenda, and pretty soon it escalates into an argument, which he didn't want to do on the camera.
No, it's not
today.
that. I just have low blood sugar.
Oh, you're tired. Oh, okay. Anyway, you understand. You get our point. Listen to one another. Use the floor technique. It may seem like it's too gimmicky, but it's better than an argument. It's better than a knockdown, drag-out fight.
So do you always carry carpet in your back pocket?
No, you can use a book.